everybody, Cindy Daychuk here with Queen Bee Creations. If you've been following me for a while, then you know that we tend to do a lot of different kind of crafts, usually involving some furniture pieces, maybe decor pieces, paint. A lot of times I like to use found items, so things that wouldn't be of use, wouldn't go anywhere else. So one of the things I love to use are old shutters. You can see this big white one painted in behind, and that one, I just painted it dark so that I could distress back, painted it white, and I have this big old basket that I'm going to hang on it so that it could be a planter basket out in somebody's backyard for the summer. So I'm not showing you that one. I did just show you that one. But I also have these old, really narrow kind of antique shutters. And I want to show you, again, kind of a quick idea of something that you can do with items like these. My neighbors were throwing these out. Really? So turning old found items into really cool decor items that you can use in your home or that you could potentially resell. So the first step with this is simply to paint. And to do that today, I am using Prom Queen. I need a change from white. So Prom Queen is just a nice, from DIY. So this is clay-based paint, just a nice light blue. It's not a baby blue. It's got a little bit more of a slight gray tinge to it. But all I'm going to be doing is give this two nice even coats of the paint before I would then distress it. So this is going to be a nice, quick, easy little craft. The most difficult part of this whole thing is painting the slats, and that's not difficult, it's just picky, right? So 2 coats of paint, and then I'll come back at you for the next step. I have got 2 coats of my Prom Queen on my shutter, and they've had time to be able to dry. What I want to do now is to distress. And you can do this either dry method, so using a sanding block or some sandpaper, or wet distressing. DIY is water activated, so wet distressing works really well as well. And it really just depends upon what look you're after and what you're looking to do. I'm hoping that dry sanding works really well on the slats. I think it'll just be faster and easier. And so all I'm really looking at doing is giving a light buff to all of my edging, just to bring out a little bit of the detail. And I started with a really dark, kind of reddish wood on this. And yes, I am not painting the back because this is going to be hung up against a wall or, you know, either outdoors or indoors, whatever. And yeah, I'm not looking to waste my time that way. If you're a perfectionist, go ahead, paint the back. All right, what I will do now though, even though I did dry sand with it, I am going to take a baby wipe and I am just going to lightly wipe it down, get all of that dust off of it before I go to seal. Now to seal this, you could use wax or you could use a polyacrylic of your choice. I'm going to use a poly. I'm going to use DIY Big Top only because, you know, I'm looking at turning this into something that somebody may use as a planter. I think that there's a lot of good indoor uses for what we're going to do with this, but just in case, I'm going to seal it with something that at least has a chance to be able to, you know, stand up to a bit of weather outside. It isn't something that I would want to leave, you know, out in an uncovered porch, but people are going to use it however they're going to want. So I want to give them a little bit of flexibility. So I just need this to dry, then we're going to come back and I'm going to seal it up, and then we'll move on to the next step of our project. Okay, now the bases of both of our shutters are painted, sealed, ready for the next step. This one that I had just kind of showed you briefly that I had painted it out, I have this wire hanging basket, planting basket. We're just going to be attaching that. So virtually, apart from a little bit of hardware, it's done. This one, however, we still have a little bit more work to do. And what I'm looking at doing is, let me turn it sideways for you so you can see. I want to hang 3 of these dollar store buckets on it. And really what I'm looking at is somebody could put this outside, hang it outside. And so I'll put some hanging hardware on the back so they could hang it outside and they could actually put flowers in it. Flowers in a flower pot. But I also envision that it's something that could be a decorative item inside with some real flowers or fake flowers. Try saying that 3 times fast. Some fake flowers in it hanging on the wall, or perhaps even in an office with all the pens and pencils and rulers and all that kind of paraphernalia. Equally so in a craft room, or in a child's room perhaps. So gathering all of their stuff maybe by a desk that they have. So not taking up drawer space, but keeping it a little bit more organized. So I think that there's a lot of practical uses to this. Before we get to the point, however, that we are going to be attaching them, I think it'd be cuter if they're painted. So rather than just having the plain metal, I'm gonna leave the metal arms alone, but I want to paint these out and maybe put a stamp in the front. So I'm going to be doing it in a contrasting paint. So I want to use DIY beadboard, which is a nice bright white, and I'm just going to paint these out with 2 coats of the white paint and seal them with the big top, and then we'll come back for the next step. So just again, making it a little bit prettier if we're using it inside. Even if I'm using it outside, I want it to be pretty. So a couple of coats of beadboard and we're good to go. Pots are all painted and sealed. I'm really looking at wanting to do something a little bit more to the front of them. Now you could certainly stencil these, you could stamp them, but bear in mind, because they're a curved surface and there's ripples in the edges, they're a little more challenging. So making sure that you get a nice crisp image is going to be a little bit tougher. Not impossible, but a little tougher. The easiest way to go is the way that I'm going to go. No big surprise there. And I am going to apply some transfer to the front, just a little bit to kind of brighten it. And I really love these, the lemon drop transfer from IOD. And in particular because it really is going to go far. You get tons of them on the transfer, and I'm really only looking at cutting out a couple of them for each of my little pots. And I think that the contrast on the white with a little bit of the blue background is just going to be super cute. So I have 3 pots. I need to get 3 little bunches of these cut out, and you can kind of cut out wherever, but they also have some that are already set up where it's just 1 or 2 little lemons with some blossoms. So easiest just to take those ones, even though of course some of them are in the middle of my transfer, but that's okay. Super easy just to kind of cut out what you need. And let's maybe just take this double one right on the edge here too. And we're good to go. So then the rest of this just gets rolled back up, making sure that I'm keeping the backing in place. The backing is what's preventing any of the transfer from sticking to itself and therefore making it unusable. And it's great with any of these transfers. Once we start cutting them apart, you know, you can use them together, mix and match them, whatever you need. And it's great just to be able to cut them apart and do multiple projects with them. Okay, so taking the backing off means that this is now stick-onable. This is ready to go. So you need to kind of decide how you want it to go and what the placement is, because once you kind of put it down onto a surface that's prepped and ready for it, it's a done deal. Okay, so I'm pretty good with it here. And it comes with a handy dandy little tool, and I've got a big collection of these babies now. I use them for a lot of other things because once I've got them, I just hang on to them. And now we are simply going to rub the transfer to be able to transfer it from the the paper that it's on, the plastic that it's on, and onto the surface of my pot. Once it's transferred onto there, I will reseal them. So the transfers really love a slick surface, like a poly surface, more so than wax. It loves glass, so you don't have to prep the glass. It loves glass as well, that slick surface, but it really loves that poly finish rather than the wax. So I will reseal these just to protect the transfer once it's on there and extend its life onto my pots. But it's going to give kind of that nice, fresh, kind of bright, a little bit of a challenge on the curved surface, but nothing major. And you'll start to see the kind of plastic lighten up a little bit as the transfer shifts over onto your piece. I mean, look, it's going already. And peeling a little bit of that plastic back allows you to be able to see what's stuck, what isn't stuck, where you need to rub more, where you don't need to rub. And that's it. So what I like to do is once it's on, is just take a little bit of that white paper that was stuck on and rub it. This is called burnishing, and what you're really doing is you're just ensuring that that transfer has adhered really well, that you had gone over all of it, because sometimes maybe you haven't touched it with the tool and it's releasing onto your piece anyway. We want to make sure that it's nice and burnished in, it's stuck onto that pot. Look how cute that's going to be. So doing this with the other 2 pots and then sealing again with poly, that's this step. And when we get back together again, we're going to be looking at attach them. Carry on. Once we've got the transfers onto our pots, then it's really a time to just take a look at mounting our items onto our boards. Now, for the big black wire one, it actually has some little hooks on the back. Let me show it to you. Here, that are going to catch onto a screw. So I actually want the screw to sit out in front. So what I need to do, because these are just thin little slats, is I need to put a bolt there with a nut on the back to be able to hold it in place so that it sticks out. It's raised in front so that the black metal can just slide into place, if that makes sense. So I need to drill a hole straight through the slat. Now, to do that, because these are fairly flimsy, you can see the bend in them, it's easiest to do this by mapping out where the holes need to go, and that's, I put black dots, I laid that out and put black dots there, and then I've propped up some wood blocks to be where I'm going to be drilling, just to make sure that I'm drilling into something, not my table. Been there, done that. But also that it's providing some of that support to that slat, so I'm not going to snap my slat, because then I'm in trouble. Okay, so I've got my black dot, I've got that propped up. I need to stand a little bit. And I like to drill a little bit slowly at first to make sure that I've got a hole so that the whole thing doesn't slide and scratch the heck out of everything that I'm doing. And once I've got kind of that starter hole, then I'm much more confident. And I'm through. That reverse out. Beauty! And my slats are intact. Okay, so those are the holes I need for that one. This one is a little bit different. I'm only going to have, so the little blue one, I'm only going to have one screw that's going into a slat. The other ones, and these slats are a lot thicker, and because they're much shorter, there's no give to them. So really what I'm going to be looking at doing is just simply putting a screw into it. I don't need a bolt, a nut and a bolt in this case. So I'm just going to use screws. They're going to sit. So attaching the metal cans, I am not going to be screwing through the metal. I need to have a hole already established that my screw could just go in, and then I'll drill down into the wood. Easiest way for this is not to ruin the drill bit by trying to drill through metal, because I don't have one that I think is technically for that. So I'm just going to punch a hole through the can with a big nail and a hammer. Beauty. Now, that's going to leave a sharp point out here, but that's what's going to be nailed against my wood frame, so, or drilled against my wood frame, attached to my wood frame, so it's not going to be an issue. That's going to be something that just helps it actually stick on there a little bit better. So that little starter hole just gives me something that I can drill my screw through without it having to try and get through the metal can as well, and I can drill straight into wood.